Hey guys, Foxdrop here. Today I want to do a video on choosing your best champions for ranked and how to go about choosing those champions. This is something I get asked a fair amount, and honestly it's one of those things where I think different people have different opinions, but I have a theory, a philosophy that I like to stick to, which is what I want to share with you guys today. Now again, with this style of video where you've got my little head talking in the corner and the gameplay up here, it's something kind of new that I'm still testing out, so if you do enjoy these videos, feel free to leave it that thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed already, of course, what are you doing? Hit the subscribe button. But anyway, enough of that, let's get on with the video. First thing that I want to say about this is the most important thing is that whenever you're choosing your champions for ranked, you always you should be prioritizing picking your best. Regardless of anything else, that should be the first thing you focus on. Now, I could kind of just end the video right there and just be like, yeah, that's it. Pick your best champion, go into rank, that's that. I kind of want to elaborate on it a little bit more and also talk about some exceptions where obviously you would want to pick some different champions. But in theory, it is perfectly possible to climb as high as you want to climb, as high as your skill will let you climb, with just one champion. Have you ever heard the term one-trick pony? That's what that is, where someone picks one trick, one champion, and they just roll with it. Now, I'm not just saying all of you guys should be one-trick ponies, but generally speaking, the smaller your champion pool is, the easier it is to climb, at least in my opinion. Now, like I say, picking your best champion is generally speaking the best thing you want to do, but not every single time. There will be situations where you might not want to pick your best champion. I'll be going into that a bit later on. So like I said in the beginning, I have my own theory about what you should be picking in ranked, or how you should choose your champions, and in my opinion, what you should do is you want to have your main champion, like I mentioned, but also pick two champions that are kind of like your off champions. Now, if you want some more information on how to actually choose your best champions, I have done a video on that, which I'll link to down below and also put it on the screen here as well. But the very short version of it is just you want to be picking something that you enjoy. So if that's it for your main champion, what about your off champions, those other two? Now, ideally, you want to enjoy playing those as well, right? But generally speaking, these are champions that want to fill slightly different roles than your main. Now, I'm not talking about like AD carry, jungle, top, not those kind of roles. Roles such as tank or AP or an initiator, stuff like that. Also, at least one of those off champions, I would recommend to have a very easy, mechanically simple champion. Shad agrees with me, and the reason for that is because they can be served as untilt champions. Reasons why those champions can be good to untilt is because if your main is someone who requires a lot of mechanics or something and you're just not playing very well, you're not on point, then you're not going to be very successful with them. Whereas if you choose a champion that's easy to play, then it doesn't matter if you're not playing that well, because you're not going to be failing on a fundamental level with them. So how do you actually choose which one of these champions you want to play? Well, for the majority of times, you want to be choosing your main champion, obviously. However, like I said, there are times when you don't want to be choosing your main champion, and that's what I'm going to look at right now. First point of an example of when you might not want to choose your main champion is when you find yourself playing against a team comp that you really don't like playing that champion against. For me specifically, my main champion is Lee Sin. Now, I don't like picking Lee Sin against very aggressive early game junglers when my team have very weak laners. The reason for that is because Lee Sin in a 1v1 situation against very strong early game junglers probably is gonna lose, and if you don't have the strong laners to back you up, then there is nothing stopping those aggressive junglers getting in your face and making your life hell. So that's not very fun to play, so I don't pick Lee Sin in those team comps. Additionally, I don't like picking Lee Sin against very slippery enemy carries. Like, Shad, you're being very slippery right now. Slippery enemy carries, I don't like picking Lee Sin against. Thank you for your cameo there, Shad. People like Kalista, for example, for some reason, like maybe this is very personal to me, but I just really don't like playing Lee Sin against them because they hop around all the time, and it's really hard to not only land those skill shots, but then once you've landed that skill shot, then you're flying in and maybe you're trying to do an insect, you're trying to ward hop. It's really hard to know where they're going to land up so that you can then put your ward behind and make a play. Some of that is just psychological, really, like it's personal preference. Like for me with that Kalista, if I go up against them and already I'm kind of like playing against my own head a little bit, but another Lee Sin main might love playing against Kalista. It's okay to kind of give yourself excuses not to pick that champion if you know that once you get in game, it's going to negatively impact how you play. The second example of when you might not want to pick your main is when you find yourself in a lane matchup that you really don't like playing against. Now, this one is a bit of an iffy point because I still believe that if you have enough experience in one champion, then you can pick it into anything, any counter you can do well against if you're more experienced. The reason why I included this point is because if you really don't like playing that matchup, then you're not going to have fun playing the game and you're just going to be getting into your own head. So if you can pick a champion that you may not be as experienced on, but it's one of your off champions and you're just going to have a better time of things in the game, then it might be worth doing that. And the last example of when you might not want to pick your main champion is when you're going to be setting up your own team for full AD comps. Some of you may not have been expecting me to say that. It is very specific and quite unique, but it does hold its weight, mostly in my opinion, from a psychological standpoint. Yes, having a full AD comp isn't always ideal, especially in the current meta where tanks are everywhere. Sunfire Cape's a great buy, Iceborne Gauntlet's a great buy, Last Whisper ain't very good anymore. You might want to avoid AD comps just from that point of view, but the bigger point in my opinion is that when you have a full AD comp, your teammates tend to be kind of triggered. I would say that I've had a disproportionate amount of teammates either give up on the game, not care about it from the beginning, or just get very salty in general in their overall attitude just because they're playing in a full AD team. Now in my opinion, those are the three main or only things you should be taking into consideration when you're picking your main champion, or more specifically not picking your main champion, and outside of that you should just be picking those two off champions. However, there are some things that you really shouldn't be taking into consideration, things that some people do take into consideration, and things in my opinion that are very overrated when it comes to picking your champion. Some people will deviate from their comfort zone for some of these following reasons, and I really don't think that's justified. First one is picking something that works good against the enemy team. Really all there is to say is that it doesn't matter if it works well against the enemy team. If you don't really know how to play it, you're much better off playing something you're comfortable on, even if it doesn't fit perfectly against that enemy team. Secondly is what works best in your team. Again, the same reasons. You're much better picking something that you're comfortable on rather than trying to accommodate for your team's needs. Thirdly, don't pick something outside your comfort zone just because it counters what the enemy team has already picked. Chances are, if they are a main of that champion, then they know how to play against that counter. So unless you really know how to play that counter, then don't pick it. There's just no point. You're much better off picking your comfort zone champions. On top of that, if you're picking a champion counter, that only really applies to the lane phase of the game. Once you're outside the lane phase, they're then playing a champion that they know how to play later on, and you're then playing a champion who you're not so sure how to play later on. Another thing you shouldn't take into consideration is what your teammates ask for. Again, you're much better off picking something you're comfortable on than something your teammate wants you to play. In addition, don't just pick something because your favorite pro players picked it in the LCS as well. Yes, that is a good indication that the champion itself is strong, but until you know how to play that champion, until it's become one of your comfort zone champions, it is not worth picking up. And lastly, a point similar to the one I just made, don't pick a champion just because Reddit told you it had the highest win rate. Yes, win rates can be quite useful to indicate what is strong and what's not in solo queue, but they're by far the only thing you should look at. And again, you're much better picking something you know how to, you know what I'm going to say. I'm not even going to finish saying it. You know. So in my opinion, those are the things you need to take into consideration when picking your champions in ranked. If you stick to what I told you, in my opinion, you're giving yourself the best chances to climb. So I hope you liked this video, guys. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to me for more educational league content. Don't forget to leave me your thoughts down below in the comments if you have any other suggestions for future videos, future topics for me to talk about, or just give me your opinions on this video as well. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, and catch me streaming over at twitch.tv/Foxdrop. All those things are down below in the description, guys, but most importantly, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you in my next video.